building a transmission line for two Rockford P2s. I did screw up a little bit. I calculated this out for 4 ohm speakers. 4 ohm voice coils. I had dual 2 ohm voice coils. So I think it needs to be about 8 inches longer on the port. But anyways, and I wanted them side by side and down firing. But they're they're not like that. Just because how the setup was on this. I did one on the top, one on the bottom. Probably gonna make a new box. So you see I drew the outline, the basic outline here of how the ports laid out and sidewall, just get an idea of everything. I did draw later in some 45s, stuff like that. And I am missing some video. I didn't get my main gluing process video lost because my storage was full and didn't video it. A rookie mistake. Now here I'm just ripping down some boards. These are going to be for the sidewalls, port, and baffle and everything. I'm doing just a quick rough cut. I think I needed like 3 or 4. I ended up cutting an extra one just in case. So you can see there I'm just measuring in about a foot or so, clamping it down, ripping it. I think that was 8 inches or 8 1/4. I can't remember was what I was aiming for. So now I got the table saw set up, and here I'm going to be measuring the height to just barely cut through so I don't get any burn marks or anything like that, so it does clean cut. And now I'm just making sure that the edge of the tooth to the fence is the measurement I want. And I'm just going to go ahead and rip the boards down. Now since I got the table saw set up for this, I do all of them so they'll all be the same height. This table saw does have a measuring device on it that is fairly accurate, so I just double check with the tape measure. Now I'm going to cut my boards to length here. This table saw is kind of nifty here. I can extend it there. It's a fold up one, totally worth spending a little extra money on it. This is my longest cut here, and it was just enough to cut it like that. I did have some issues with this table saw where I couldn't get a good 90-degree cut on it because of the way it was set up. It was just like 1 or 2 degrees off, which when you're building a box, it was kind of like, well, makes a difference. I did end up getting that sorted out. There was some adjusters, that little stoppers that have cams on them you could turn. So I was able to turn those and get it to 90 degrees. So now I'm just started with the longest one, just slowly bringing it in. And the reason I did all of this, so the top and bottom are, you set all your baffles and everything on there, and I cut enough to do all my 45s and everything. I did that, so you set up the table saw, you cut all that stuff, so it's all the same height, so you won't have any discrepancies there. And then you can just cut them all to length, and then pre-drill some holes and screw them on. Alright, now I'm cutting the 45s for the corners there. I forgot to video all that, so I'm doing the last couple here. So And my router table here, I was going to video this, but I just made a quick one out of some MDF and I rounded it over the end of the baffle. So you can see that little round over. Alright, now what I'm doing here is I got the top and the bottom stacked. And I'm pre-drilling holes because I'm going to use screws to kind of clamp it together. And then I'll remove the screws later on after the glue dries. So that's why I traced that template out, so my screws would be in the right place. I'm using a 1/8 drill bit. I'm gonna change this layout though. I think I'm just gonna do one fold instead of two folds like that. Here's it all glued together. Basically what I did is I put some screws in through the bottom. I screwed enough to kind of hold it all together, then unscrewed it all and put the glue down on one board at a time and started screwing it back in so everything was lined up and flush and perfect. Now I just put glue on the top, put my screws in, and I'm just easing a handful of them in just to kind of get everything centered. And because I did a total dry fit, pre-screwed it all together, dry fit, and then come back. On my 45s, I didn't drill the top holes, pre-drill them. I just did the bottom ones. So I used clamps to hold that 45 in. Those 45s in, I screwed it from the bottom, glued everything, used the clamps to hold the 45s in, then came back and did the top portion. And that's all the video I'm missing. You know, kind of the important part of the gluing process. Now here I'm getting it all singed down, wiping off my excess glue. And now I'm going to cut out my holes here. I scribed a hole, a mark on it, and I'm just cutting it with a jigsaw here. I'm not very, I'm not totally accurate with it, but it works. I would rather use a router to do this, but I don't have a template or anything because that'd work much better. And you can see like the speakers, how they would sit next to each other. That's the reason I didn't put them next to each other, because it would be, you know, all the way in the turret of the port, and I kind of didn't want it like that, so I just said screw it. Flip it over, do the same thing again. You can see this is how I scribed it. And just I cut a pilot hole, and you know, stick your blade down and start going getting after it. I took my time with this, cutting it out. There we go. Alright, now I'm gonna drill my hole for my speaker terminal. This bit I'm using is pretty dull, but it's the right size and it's the one I had, so I went ahead and used it. So it took me quite a while to get this hole cut out. I used that bit there. It said it was for metal, and I used it on that bumper on that truck that's sitting in the background there, and it dulled her up quite a bit, but it works. It just takes forever. It's gonna get a whole kit. And yeah, when I was doing all this, the temperature outside was fairly cold, so you can see I put the glue in the sun there to kind of keep it warm, because I'm going to try filling the holes in with sawdust and glue when I take all my screws out. And that didn't work quite the way I wanted it. I'm probably going to do something a little bit different. So you can see I was pre-drilling the holes there for the screws. Just run that in, get it over all screws, make sure they're all piloted in. Alright, now taking all my screws out and try my wood filler and sawdust. And I didn't quite have enough screws to screw this whole thing together. They were still in the last box that I built. So I had to remove them out of that box because I just left them in it, you know. And so I had to remove them all and use them on this project. So now I'm trying a little bit of wood glue, a little sawdust, trying to pack it in there. This didn't work the best. And maybe I'm just doing it wrong or using the wrong glue. But you can see that glue kind of turns out white when it dries. So I tried it a different way. I made like a paste and pushed it in, and that worked a little bit better. But I don't know. I'd probably just use some wood filler. I'm gonna do a little research and try something a little different. So I think I'm gonna do a different layout, build another box. Alright, here's the final product. Rounded over reports. The filler didn't work like I wanted it to. So I want to do something a little different. So I'm not totally finished with it. But I hate how I screwed up. But I just did these quick little feet on there for now. That's it. On 250 watt JL amp, temporary. So